YouTube, long time no see, you look great. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a video explaining some common terms in sewing, specifically regarding fabrics. This is a piece of single weave cotton print. It's just, a piece of fabric. No big, super impressive stuff here. We're going to use this piece of fabric to explain to you what some of these terms are. So the first term that we're going to use is grain line. Grain line is the direction in which the threads of a piece of fabric run. You can see, I guess you can't really with this kind of video quality, but if you look very closely at any piece of fabric, you can see that there are perpendicular lines running inside of it, and that's where each thread is. Like you can tell on the edge here that these threads run in this direction in a straight line. And then the opposite threads run perpendicular to that in a straight line. The next term is bias. So the grain line of a piece of fabric is the direction in which the threads run. Bias, on the other hand, is a term that is used for the 45-degree angle across a grain line. And the reason that bias is used, you'll actually see it in quite a few things. If you just take a piece of normal old cotton and you try to stretch it, it doesn't really stretch. But if you take that same piece of fabric on the bias, you'll find that it kinda does stretch. So cutting something on a bias will allow for that little bit of give on it, where cutting something just strictly on the grain line will not allow for that kind of stretch. I have here a piece of a pattern. This is the yoke of a set of pants that I am making. Actually, this very set of pants right here uses this yoke. You will see that there is this line on it, this sort of double-headed arrow going on. That is the grain line marker. So if you're putting it on a piece of fabric, you find your grain line, and then you'll take your grain line marker and match it up just like that. So that your mark here is parallel to the grain line, which is either this side of the fabric or this side of the fabric. If you end up cutting it this way, so that it's not on the grain, then when you put it together it will stretch really strangely, it'll misshape itself, it'll be ugly, and no one will want to like it. Of particular note is if you are cutting out multiple pieces of a thing. Like, for instance, the pants yoke requires me to cut 4 of it. So, if I cut 2 of it on the grain line, and then 2 of it on the bias, when I put them together, they won't match, because one of them will misform because it's on a bias, while the other one will keep its shape because it's on the grain line. So, the term watch your grain line, or observe grain line, or cut on the grain, refers to following if you're using a pattern, following the arrows on each piece of the pattern so that they all go on the same direction as the grain line. And it also refers to just, if you're cutting multiple things or you're cutting something that you don't need to be specifically on a bias, to cut it with the 90-degree angles in the grain facing the right direction. So that's the explanation of those two terms. We've gone over, grain line and bias. If you've got any more questions about anything, anybody, drop me messages, put comments down. I'll see if I can't do a couple more of these, I guess. I don't know if they're any kind of useful or interesting. And if they are, then maybe I'll actually do them with a better camera and not the one on my broken iPad. Anyway, it was good to see you again. Maybe I'll see you again soon.